A very good afternoon to everyone. I'm Pooja from Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's my utmost pleasure to be here with you all of you today, and I'm glad to moderate today's informative session. I would now like to invite Mr. Kishore Daryanani, Vice Chairman SICCI. He is the Board Director of SICCI and Managing Director Ganga Jamuna Electronics Private Limited. Founded in 1986 with a paid-up capital of $2.4 million, Ganga Jamuna Electronics is one of the leading import and export business for branded consumer products. Within a span of 22 years and under the leadership of Mr. Kishore, the company has secured a strong foothold in new and emerging markets and CIS countries. Born in a family of businessmen, Mr. Kishore has an eye for entrepreneurship and decades of hands-on experience. He has held key appointments in several companies, which tells of his vast experience. Mr. Kishore is also the honorary consultant of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let me invite Mr. Kishore Daryani to start this session. Mr. Kishore, please.
Thank you, Pooja. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. The speakers for today are Mr. Francis Tan and Mr. Deepak Kumar. Mr. Francis Tan is the CEO of SLP ZACD. Mr. Deepak Kumar, consultant ZACD Group. Property investment opportunities are not random events, but highly related to the master plan released by URA, which is the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Singapore, every 5 to 7 years. The master plan is the statutory land use in which guides Singapore's development in the medium term over the next 10 to 15 years. It's reviewed every 5 years and translates the broad long-term strategies of the concept plan into detailed plans to guide the development of land and property. Today in this session, Mr. Francis will go a little back in history to illustrate how the master plan is highly related to the property market over the last 100 years, and also point out the next phase of the real estate opportunities in Singapore. ZACD Group Limited, a member of SICCI, is an integrated asset manager specializing in real estate, listed in Hong Kong Exchange, HKEX 8313, and headquartered in Singapore. It provides integrated solutions across the real estate value chain in the region Asia Pacific. ZACD helps you identify real estate investment opportunities in residential, commercial, industrial, and hospitality projects, and offers them to investors through the formation of special purpose vehicles, SPVs. Clients' investments and assets are managed through these SPVs, which help them realize returns throughout the life of the investment projects. They have a proven track record in managing a comprehensive range of property investments in Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia, which enables them to consistently grow their clients' assets across market cycles and in diversified geographical markets. Let me now ask Mr. Deepak Kumar to begin this session. Mr. Deepak, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kishore. We would like to thank SICCI for this opportunity. I would like to thank Mr. Kishore for a wonderful introduction. Let me start proper by introducing ZACD Group. So thank you, Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce, for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Kishore, for the Vice Chairman of Singapore Indian Chamber of Commerce, for the wonderful introduction. ZACD, our stock code is HKEX 8313 in Hong Kong. So let me share a little bit about ZACD. ZACD was established in 2005. We are listed in Hong Kong and our HQ is based in Singapore. We are very much a Singapore company and our founders are Singaporeans, Mr. Stanley Yeoh and Ms. Kane Sim. What we do, we have four core pillars of investments that we do. We do investment and asset management. We do acquisitions and project management, facilities and property and facility management, and financial services. ZACD holds in Singapore the capital markets license. This has been issued by MAS. In Hong Kong, we have type 1, which is dealing in securities, type 4, which is advising on securities, and type 6, advising on corporate finance. In Singapore, ZACD is also a member of REDAS. Now, in the throughout the market cycles, in the last 15, 16 years, ZACD has 19 industrial projects, 14 residential, 2 mixed use, 3 commercial, and 1 hospitality. The average rate of return on investment is 96%. What this means that for every
Deepak,
dollar
you're cracking up actually.
investor invests with ZACD Group, he gets 6 cents dollars operations and in Malaysia. Can you hear me, Pooja?
Yeah, now can. Yeah, we lost you again, Deepak. Deepak.
Deepak, we have lost you. We can't hear anything from you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, say again.
I said,
Yeah, now okay. Yeah, now okay.
Yeah. So let me start again. Let's see.
Deepak cannot hear you, please.
Can you hear me now, Pooja?
Yes, can now.
Okay, my apologies. Let me
No problem.
start sharing the screen again. Okay. Key dates over the last decade. Is in 2016.
Deepak, there is a lot of interference. Maybe you need to take only one system. Yeah.
Sorry, the key dates over the last decade. In 2016, ZACD received its TMS license by MAS. In 2018, we are listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And in 2021, our current asset under management is about 411 million. This is, and you have clearly seen that in 2005 to present, we had very strong support from our investors and our partners. This is our track record since 2005. We'd like to share some of our earlier projects. Our earlier projects in North Star in Ang Mo Kio. That project yield us a return on equity was about 994%. This project is in Ang Mo Kio. This is one of our earliest projects. Our recent project is our first residential project in Singapore CBD, which is called the Landmark. This Landmark is currently is developed in Chin Swee Road. The targeted return on equity is about 74%. Our current project is on Mount Emily. The address in Mount Emily is 246 Mount Emily Road. This is a residential zone. This is a freehold property. The fund manager is ZACD. The fund project or the fund life for this fund is about 4+1 year. And the projected ROE for this project is 55%. Our investment philosophy is value investing. We always believe in seeking out good values and opportunity in the market. We have very strong risk management, so we minimize our risk investment by having strong joint venture partners, and our partner selection process is very, very stringent. Before any investment starts, we have very clear investment exit strategy, and we are very transparent. These are some of our partners. Our contact details, please do feel free to reach out to us. Our website, our telephone number, and my email address is there. So please do reach out to us. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis is our CEO for SLP, and Mr. Francis will now share the Singapore landscape. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Deepak, and thank you, Mr. Kishore, for the very succinct and very accurate picture of what I was going to share. So it appears that, Mr. Kishore, you know what I was going to roughly talk about today, and you're on point, you know. So we are, I mean, like what Mr. Kishore said, Singapore's real estate market is not by chance, it's not random. Okay, it's all underpinned by a very open document. So if there's anything about Singapore, I guess it is the openness of all these plans. And that's why I say that if you want to look at property investment opportunities, the best is we go to the source of where the entire framework comes from. And then from there, we can understand a little bit more on what to invest. All right. So allow me to share my screen. Okay. Hold on. Yes, one more time. Okay, I am Francis Tan. I'm the CEO of SLP International, which is a sister company of the ZACD group. So we basically serve as the consultancy arm to ZACD, and we are closer to the market in the sense of what is happening every day in the real estate world of Singapore. And we are more of a consultancy that is a niche and boutique. So we are kind of similar to Propnex and ERA, but of course we are not so big on manpower, so we are not like, you know, as big as them. But in function wise, I think we are largely similar. All right, so I am Francis. To give a short introduction of myself, I didn't start off in real estate. I served the Singapore government. You know, I was in the civil service for almost 8 years. Before I finished my bond, and I decided that I was looking at whether do I want to continue or do I want to go out into the private sector. So it's water under the bridge. I moved out of the civil service, and I found my passion and I found my love in the real estate. And I've always been involved in more of the master planning and the strategy aspect of real estate. You know, so in my study of the Singapore's market and the regional market, I come to a lot of realization as how this entire game is being played. All right. So allow me to bring you back a little today, about 100 years to be exact. Okay, to show you how this entire modern cityscape that we see didn't happen randomly. Yeah, it was a very concerted effort right from the start. Okay. So I'll usually start with just telling you a little bit about my company. We have marketed almost 100, more than 100 project developments in Singapore already. And we were once the top 10, until not too long ago, means the top 10 largest in Singapore. So we are big in the investment, sales, on block, research, advisory, valuation, project management, and of course, capital market transactions. And we recently also transacted some of the most expensive GCBs in Singapore. All right, so we are a more niche and slightly more mid-market kind of agency. So feel free to contact us for your real estate needs. If you have any advice to seek, we will be most glad to advise you. All right. So we are sister company of ZACD. Together we form a group with local presence and international outreach. All right. Okay. So I think enough of introduction of my company. We will go full into what I want to talk today. All right. So let me quote from William Shakespeare. Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. I guess for Singapore's case, we didn't choose nor want to become great per se. But I guess the situation was thrown upon us, and the only way that we're going to make ourselves out of the swamp is to become great. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened in Singapore, because it was a really very humble beginnings. Not exactly a fishing village, but not a metropolis either. Okay, so let me start with the late 1880s, which was very, very, very long ago, more than 100 years ago. All right, so this was the Singapore that Raffles and Mr. Raffles and Mr. Farquhar saw in 1819. All right, so if we look at it, there's the European town. This was what they set up. All right, the mouth of the Singapore River is here. The west of the river, the east of the river, they all represent different ethnic enclaves, which the British love to do. If there's one thing about the British is that it's not like Singapore's government. I think we are very concerted. It's like I grew up with my Malay and Indian friends, and we're in the same community. But in the British time, no, it didn't happen this way. The Chinese were kept separate from the Malays. The Malays were kept separate from the Indian merchants, and everybody were like in separate colonies. And that's also kind of determine how Singapore developed as a town, which I'm going to go through later on, as to how all these enclaves led to the Singapore that we know today. All right. So this is the downtown core as we see today. It's fringed by, well, the MBS on the southern side, the Marina Bay Sands, and then the downtown core, which is Raffles Place, which was the place that Raffles set foot on. Then, of course, the east side, we have the National Gallery, etc., which in the very early days, it was the house of the Tremangong. So that's traditionally where the ruler of Singapore stays. And then we have Reclaim Marina. I'm going to show you how we reclaim Marina and how it came to be. All right, so this was the Singapore that Raffles saw, founded. In fact, in the 19th century, Singapore stopped here. You see the pink, the purplish part of Singapore. These are real one-to-one mapping. Means that we superimpose the old map onto the new map, and this is exactly what you see. So a lot of things that if we were to take a time machine back in time, and if you happen to be at Marina Bay Sands, you'll be in deep water, literally, because there's nothing there. It was deep blue sea. Yeah, so that was Singapore to start with, and we have grown, and we have really grown a lot. Because I asked my daughters, they totally didn't know any of this from school. So nobody went back so deep to teach anyone about what happened. So we all know that when Singapore took over, when the government took over in 1965, we inherited a thriving city, but not exactly very rich. And we actually have the British to thank for it. Because if you look at the blue zone there, which includes Chinatown, which includes a lot of the Shenton Way area, those were actually deep blue sea as well. But the British had the foresight of knowing that, because previously at this Chinatown area, there used to be some giant hills, not as tall as Bukit Timah Hill, but we call it Mount Wallish. Yeah. So Mount Wallich is where Wallich residence stands today. So the British leveled Mount Wallich and dumped the soil into what is known today as the Shenton Way. So if you see the picture, that is what we call the phase 0 reclamation that was done by the British from the 1880s to the 1930s. Okay, so this entire area that we see here, including the water body, this is phase 0. All right, so Lau Pa Sat and a lot of Shenton Way buildings, why the land is so flat and so beautiful and so straight is because they are reclaimed land. So because I traveled around the world, I've seen beautiful natural terrains. And one thing I always tell people, how do you recognize if the terrain is reclaimed? You just have to determine how flat is this. Just like our way to Changi Airport, if you know your East Coast Parkway is so flat and so long, and it's really so beautifully flat. If it's so beautifully flat, it has to only mean something. It is reclaimed. It's not real volcanic land. All right, so that's Crater Eyre Basin that later became, our Marina Bay. The Bay of Water used to be called Crater Eyre Basin. Yeah, so Polar Brownie is in the distance. And then there used to be a company called the Strait Steamship Company. Yeah, very, very long ago, very powerful steamship company. And that's why later in my lecture, you will see that there's a part of Singapore that we are going to rename as Strait Settlement. It's in the future, but it's coming. Okay, there's going to be a Straits View district in Singapore, facing Sentosa Cove. Yeah, these are all in the works already. So Shenton Way is here. Lau Pa Sat is that red little square there. Okay, so this was the beginnings of Shenton Way. If you look at that octagonal shape, that is Lau Pa Sat. And then the Hong Leong building was to come as the tallest building in the southern part of Singapore. And this was the entire Singapore downtown many, many years ago. All right, and Marina Bay Sands was here, right in the middle of deep water. Okay, so I'm going to go on to phase 2 now. Phase 2 is when we were ousted from the Malay Federation, and we had to begin life as an independent nation. Okay, so what happened was our government under Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and Mr. Goh Keng Swee, who is one of the biggest, he was one of the most chief architect of Singapore, if we were to name him. We are giving credit for engineering a lot of all these miracles that we see today. All right, so Hong Leong building next to Lau Pa Sat was the tallest building that's still standing today, that has got the most spectacular sea-facing skyscraper view in the 1970s, But if you look at Hong Leong building today, it's like, it's just one of many facing NTUC, income building facing this one Shenton building, etc. But it used to be the nicest and tallest building, as you can see from this picture here. Beautiful. All right. And if you see the sand dunes behind, that was the beginning of the reclamation process that the Singapore government did the moment they took over. So when in 1965, when the government took over, the first thing they did was to extend Shenton Way, to push out the boundaries of Shenton Way all the way until what we see as Marina South today. Okay, so as I quote from Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, he said this many, many years ago, half a century ago, that over 100 years ago, this was a mudflat swamp. Today, this is a modern city. And 10 years from now, this will be a metropolis. Never fear. And he was right. I would guess totally right. Okay, because everything was concerted and planned. So if we look at all the hash area, means that those areas that we have made markings, those did not exist at all. And this was the from URA. I went back in time. I went back to the archives and I pulled this out from 1965 to 2000. This was what we call the phase 1 to phase 7 reclamation. So the British did phase 0 for us and handed us the country. And what we did was we did phase 1 to phase 7, which culminated in our Changi Airport, including a large part of the East Coast, Marine Parade, Marina Center, which is where all the hotels are, where Suntec City is. We also reclaimed that portion of land that is the Singapore Flyer, that portion, and we also reclaimed Marina South and MBS. Okay, so technically, I always joke that if you look at the cut phases for phase 4 and 5 up in the middle of the screen here, I would always say that Marina Bay, the old Marina Center, is the spiritual successor of Bedok Reservoir because we cutted a lot of the sand from Bedok area and we dump it into the sea at this beach road. And then we formed the new Marina area. Okay, so the soil underneath Marina City today was from Bedok. Yeah, the Tai Seng area, Bedok area, the entire area got blasted out, and then now there's a big hole there, and then we call it the Bedok Reservoir. So these are some of the things that a lot of our younger generations probably didn't have the chance to witness, but I guess a lot of those of us who lived through the earlier years, we have heard stories of, like, the government doing a lot of sand works at this Bedok to Tampines area. Okay, so this is the proof of that. Yeah. So this is how much Singapore planned to grow since the 1950s, the pink colored part. And it used to be like this, the East Coast Reclamation. The 30-year plan that we did was to make sure that Singapore City grew by this entire pinkish portion, which signify the entire Changi Airport, Marine Parade, East Coast, Tanjong Rhu, Marina Bay, and Marina South, which Marina Bay Sands now sit on. And the entire reclamation at East Coast freed up 1,500 hectares of premium seafront land, which I also found out that it wouldn't remain seafront for very, very long. Okay, I'm going to show you proof of why I say this. All right. So all these areas used to be in deep water. Marina South, the spiritual successor to the entire Bedok Reservoir. Construction of Raffles City. Well, URA used to have a branch called the Property Investment Development Corporation, PDAMCO. Okay, so that's from URA, and DBS had a property development arm called DBS Land, and they merged to become Capital Land sometime at the turn of the century. So Capital Land today is again the spiritual successor of both PDAMCO and DBS Land. And one of the first mega project that they built was Raffles City, that sits at the cathedral, which was really at the beachfront. So many, many years ago, a lot of people ask some of us who are in the real estate world, why is South Beach called South Beach? Well, the fact is South Beach was South Beach. South Beach was really by the sea, and that's why Beach Road was by the sea. It was the road that was nearest to the sea. That's why it's called Beach Road. Okay, but I think all this disappeared through urban redevelopment, and that's why we couldn't see it today. But the name remained. Okay, so the construction of Benjamin Sheares Bridge, this is very pivotal in the development of the city, because previously, in order to get from Raffles Place to the east part of the island, you had to go through Geylang. You had to go through the entire Geylang area, the upper Changi Road, and then you had to wiggle your way all the way to the east. And one of the first things that we did was to reclaim the Marine Parade. We had plans to shift Paya Lebar Airport all the way to the east, and that's why we planted a thoroughfare right through the coastline that's now known as Marine Parade and East Coast. And Benjamin Sheares Bridge was the start of it all. It made it all possible. Okay, so Marina Bay was a master plan in the 70s that they consulted two world-renowned architects, the Tenge master plan from Japan and the Pei master plan from USA. So as we look at these two pictures, right, I guess we can see that who won the master plan. So this, if you are interested, this is still displayed in URA's gallery because this plan was submitted and finalized as a submission, as an entry in 1983. This is still there. This is called the Pei master plan. And if you notice, everything that we see was there, before MBS came about. So I just want to illustrate to everyone that MBS wasn't an idea that was suddenly mooted. It wasn't suddenly that someone said that let's plant a casino there. Well, maybe not a casino. They wanted like commercial buildings there. So it was planned all the way from 20 years ago. In fact, 30 years, 2010. So about 30 years ago, we have already imagined MBS. If you look at this part of the picture here, this is exactly where MBS stands. This is the Art Science Museum. This is that piece of land that juts up very awkwardly at the Marina Bay. If you realize, there's a triangular piece of land, and it wasn't by accident. I just want to tell everyone here that since 1983, that little triangle was there. It was there in plain sight. We call it hiding in plain sight. Okay, so this was the pay master plan that was accepted, and works began in earnest, and they started dumping a lot of soil there, and they created the entire Marina South. That's why many, many years ago, I did ask my dad when I was a little boy, I said, why did they create, my dad told me it's reclaimed land. Then I asked my dad, why did they build a bowling alley there? Why did they reclaim the entire land to build a big hawker center, some big car park, a disco there, and then they placed a bowling alley there? Why did they do that? I came to know it later on as is waiting for sedimentation. We have to wait for the land to settle. And that's why in the meantime, let's place some buildings there as a paperweight. That was the reason why we reclaimed the land and we placed some hawker center and a few for people to play soccer and fly kites. Okay, so that's the reason. So Pay Master Plan was the master plan that eventually turned Telok Ayer Basin, Kreta Ayer Basin into Marina Bay. So these were historical pictures that you can see that in 1987, this was what the entire area looked like. But look at 205, you see that triangular piece of land, totally done according to the Pay Master Plan. So if you look at the Art Science Museum, that circular waterfront, it was there since in the middle of the 2000s. So which means that this MPS was later on built here at this portion. Okay. So I would just want to give a quick summary of how the Marina area developed over 50 years. Exactly 50 years to be, to be very accurate about it. So the first phase was done where we reclaimed this Marina Center, which was where all the three hotels, Marina Mandarin, Pan Pacific, and even today, all your Conrad and your Ritz-Carlton, all this stands today. That was the first phase of reclamation. Then after which we reclaimed Bay South, which was in the 1970s. In anticipation of the Pay Master Plan or the Marina Master Plan. Okay, so this started works. At the moment this happened, Singapore planted the Benjamin Sheares Bridge because we had to cheat a little. Okay, cheat is not a bad word. Okay, it means we were smart about it. Because in the early days, we knew that we had to join Chinatown or Shenton Way to the new airport in the east. But to build a bridge this long, it's about 7 kilometers long. I think we didn't have the cost nor the technology to do that. So what we did was we reclaimed the land, and then we just have two crossing here, one into the marina and one into Kallang. If we realize why is this portion so high, it's because initially we thought that we need to allow big ships to come in. That was the early years. Okay, but things was to change later on because we continued to reclaim from Tanjong Ru, and then the entire NTUC golf course that is now on Tanjong Ru, this particular portion here. After we reclaimed this, I think we have to thank our northern neighbor, Mr. Mahathir, for Marina Bay. I always joke that, well, he is one of the instigator and father of Marina Bay, because if not for him threatening to cut off our water supply all the time, we wouldn't have done this. Marina Barrage was built in 2008 with the motive of turning this water body into the world's largest man-made reservoir called Marina Reservoir. Okay, so when this was done, we thought that, oh yeah, I mean, by 2010, this should be done. No, we weren't done yet, because we were to put on the Singapore Flyer in 2010 and the MBS and Gardens by the Bay on this side of on Bay South. And then in 2014, we decided that, we cannot have a pristine water body, top-class, world-class hotel, a world landmark, and you have delivery trucks and containers zooming past just below your hotel every single day. So the government embarked on a massive plan. Some of us who stay, some of you who stay in East Coast will realize that they re-diverted traffic southwards, at Fort Road area, just past Fort Road. The entire expressway was rerouted under the sea to cross over and bypass the entire marina area, thereby making Marina Bay the crown jewel of Singapore. As a real estate professional, I would dare to say that the future crown jewel of Singapore is no longer Orchard Road. Some of you who have got properties there, it's because you're old rich. The old rich stays there. But in the new wave of Singapore's development, it is Marina Bay, because I had this conversation with my dad many, many years ago. I remember at a crisis, the sale CDL was selling at about 700 to 800 PSF. And at that time point, I was just a young officer in the government and a young graduate. And I was like, hey, it looks interesting, you know. And my dad told me, Orchard Road, River Valley, only 1,001 PSF freehold. Why you suggest that we go and buy 99 years Marina, 99 years for 800 PSF? Are you crazy? So at that point, none the wiser, I kind of agreed with him. And I said that, yeah, Orchard Road freehold is only like 1,001, and why do we have to buy Marina at 800? But that was the worst decision that we made, or he made, because as we know, the sale went all the way up to beyond 2,000 PSF, and it's still trending beyond 2,000 PSF today, a 3-4 increase. Okay, that's because this became the crown jewel of Singapore. By plan and by design. It's not by accident. Okay, total time taken, 50 years. This is the Marina Bay today, and 50 years of development. But we are only halfway there, and this is why I decided to put together this set of slide and lecture, because a lot of people thought that we are done. No, according to the master plan, we are only half done. All right. So then I'll go on to chapter 3. Chapter 3 talks about post 16. That's after the Marina Coastal Expressway was done. Gardens by the Bay was already in the world's view, and everybody knows about Marina Bay. Everybody knows about Marina Bay Sands and the Gardens by the Bay. We embark upon the chapter 3 of our development. So after 100 years, so drastic were the changes that, you know, this was not by me. I read this in one of the thought pieces that says that so drastic are the changes that the working class of 2030 will have higher standards of living than the aristocrats of the 20th century. It is true. Better healthcare, better longevity, better amenities. They sleep in aircon comfort, which well, even the aristocrats got to suffer through summer months in the 20th century. But the future working class will have a qualitatively different level of life compared to the past. And what is happening to the city? So I want to point out that the city is half done because the city is bursting in 2 directions. Okay, one direction is southwards, and we call that the new downtown. The other direction is eastwards towards Ophir Rochor, and we call that the Ophir Rochor corridor. If this term is vaguely familiar to you, because they were quoted by PM Lee in some National Day speeches. And well, I mean, he didn't say it to make us happy, because by the time he made it onto his screen on National Day, EDB and URA and everybody were already working on it for like 10 years, which I'm going to show you. All right. So the new downtown, this is the Marina Bay. A lot of people would have wondered, why was there so much digging at the Marina Bay area, right? For so many years, and we do not see any buildings at all. This was because the new downtown Marina Bay is a 6-level city. So there are 6 layers of infrastructure beneath the pristine Gardens by the Bay. So underneath that very, I would say, misleading oasis of a garden were a lot of infrastructure that were being built over the last 10 years. So they are all there, as we see. So next time, if you ever return to your East Coast, or you want to go to the city or Sentosa via the underground expressway, take a look at the site of MCE. You realize that there are a lot of exits that were already being built, you know, and totally blocked off by cement, concrete, brick walls, because the entire road structure has already been implemented and built, the infrastructure in the Marina City area, but it was not ready open for public, and it's too late to rebuild the tunnel. So when they were building the tunnel, the MCE, they have opened up all these exits and entrances already. Next time, drive through the Marina Coastal Expressway tunnel and take a look for yourself. That's how far ahead our city planners plan. And it's like an integrated organism. You know, LTA talks to URA talks to JTC talks to the Port Authority. Everybody in concert design and cause this entire thing to come to fruition. Okay. So this is Marina Bay. This is where Gardens by the Bay is. And this is the new city. We call this the new downtown. Okay, southwards and westwards. Okay, so these are some proof on URA's website that this has already been done southwards. So if we look today, the sale is here, the blue building right in the middle. And well, it's going to be the oldest building in the entire marina area. That's what I'm going to say. In many, many years to come, we are going to look at MBS as the Hong Leong Finance Building. It's going to be the Hong Leong Building because it was once the crown jewel, but many, many years later, we are going to have what we call the new downtown. So this is the new downtown, okay, southwards and westwards. We are only halfway done. If you look at the modded buildings there, all those yellow color, we do not know the final shape because the architect and the developer will have a final call. Like IOI just bought the latest piece of land in Marina. We do not know what it looks like. So we put a yellow-orange building there as a placeholder. But in future, this is what's going to happen. This entire city is going to be 2 times the size, and we're going to shift everything from Raffles Place and Battery Road because those were built for bullock carts, not big enough for all your Mercedes-Benzes of today. They are too big for those roads. That's why we have to shift the city all the way to the south, and that's called the new downtown. And this is whereby I come to the Straits View settlement. So in the future, this is the Straits View settlement. This is one of the most high-end districts in Singapore. This view was seen from 76 Shenton, also known as the AIA building on one of the penthouse office unit. So as we look towards the port, where they have all the COVID, the community care facilities there right now. So this is going to be future high-rise seafront housing that's going to be the most expensive in Singapore, part of the Greater Southern Waterfront. And we call this the Straits View Estate, which is also known as the Straits Settlement. Okay, so next time, Straits View Estate, it's going to be spiritually similar to the Repulse Bay of Hong Kong, the Repulse Bay area. Okay, so it's going to overlook, look face to face with this Sentosa Cove in green, and this is going to be the most high-end residential district in Singapore. So I would predict that future prices here is going to be upwards of 4,000 PSF. Okay, at launch it's going to be above 3,000 PSF. Why do I say so? Because if we look at Pasir Ris, the recent launch recently, we actually managed to hit the PSF of 2,000 PSF for a small size one-bedder unit. So that's the year 2021. I mean, in 2030, I think the prices here is going to hit about 3,000 to 4,000. That means that if you are being offered any chance to buy any of this city area, somewhere along Shenton, somewhere along this Chinatown area, go for it because you're only buying at 2,000 PSF today. It will go up to 3,000 by the end of the next decade. Just like the story I told you about the sale at Marina. We can't see it now, all right? Like my dad couldn't see it and he regretted every inch of the way thereafter because we couldn't see it at the point that's incepted. And I always like to say this, I think we are all fortunate to be in a certain circle. I would say that if you are talking to ZACD and you're an SICCI, I think we are in the circle that kind of plug into the network that we do a lot of such sharing, because I always say that when the news gets into the newspaper, when it goes into the mass media, and when 80% of the population knows about it, it is too late. It is too late, all right? You do not have the first mover advantage. How to have the first mover advantage? It's not to trust people like Francis Tan. No, because you have to trust the master plan. Look at the master plan, because I can just tell you that, so this is going to be very good. It could be my claim, yeah? But let's go into the master plan and examine whether what we present here today are going to be true. All right, so this is totally not a sales pitch. I don't have even any product to sell you, but I'm just saying that in general, look at this area. You can't go wrong. Okay, so Central, this I think we are running a little bit short. So I think these are just summary of what's going to happen in the city. Just evidence that next time the city is not just going to be office, it's going to be residential, it's a mixed development place. I would say the upper class of 2030 will all be staying here. You all can mark my words for this. The upper class will be staying here. And a lot of the offspring of the upper class of today will stay here. Yeah. Well, minus the GCD people, Okay, so the central area, very interesting. I can send this slide to you guys if you're interested. You can contact Deepak for that. this is very interesting. Go and study in detail. This is what's going to happen in the entire city, including the SGH campus master plan. We're going to bring in all the top doctors and researcher into this SGH area and going to make it a medical research campus. And it's world-class. And I will dare say it's world-class because we were one of the very pivotal and important part in giving Donald Trump his vaccine very early on, all right, in the game of COVID. Yeah, so SGH campus was responsible for that. Okay, so the State Court as well. If you look at this building, how many of us here know what this building is? I think some of you who are lawyers, you know what is this. This is the world's tallest court building in the world. So at a glance, it looks like a non-district HDB block, right? You look at it, brick walls, about 12, 15 stories tall. No, although it is 12, 15 stories tall, it is 57 stories tall. The entire height of the building is closer to 60 stories because each of this level here is the entire height of a courthouse. The entire courtroom with its grand high ceiling, each level is a courthouse. Okay, many courthouses stacked on top of each other. We call this the State Court. Yeah. So the subordinate court building is still standing as a historical monument next to it, but the future of the entire legal fraternity will take place in this entire State Court building. So if you have any investment opportunities around this area, I think there's going to be a massive transformation. You know, People's Park will go. Mark my words, People's Park will one day go. It will one day be replaced by a brand new, spanking new building, maybe mixed development. The State Court building is there. Everything in the city will be rejuvenated. All right, so RCR, oh yeah, there's another investment opportunities that I want to highlight to everyone here. Because if we notice and we see something that's sandwiched in the middle called the city, and this used to be Shenton Way, Chinatown, and Raffles Place. But later on, we were to build a crown jewel at this Marina South, thereby shifting the center of the universe southwards towards the water. So which means that I do not see why King Albert Park is considered core central prime when your Chinatown area, Havelock Road area, which is District 3, you're near to your Robertson Quay area. Why is it called rest of central region? I think it should be called core central. But I think no one had the time or no one wants to upheave the entire property market by redesignating all this area in the middle, sandwiched in this red portion here. All right, all your Chinatown area. These are the future of real estate investment because they are termed as RCR, which is rest of central area, which is what we call second class. Okay, but for all due intent and purpose, it is first class grade 1 prime location. You will agree? Do you see that actually Marina Bay is also considered subprime as well? It's considered RCR, but not true. It is actually super prime. But this was done in the very, very early days of master planning. And we have not gone in to redesignate District 1, District 2, and District 3 as core central. So these are where the opportunities lie, okay? And the prices are, of course, more muted compared to the greater city. But all this will change in the next 15 years. So you know where to make your investment. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about the eastern part of the city. It's called Ophir Rochor Corridor. We had to go a little bit back in the history of Singapore. When the British came, they segregated the entire population. So west of the Singapore River was allowed to develop because we had a lot of Chinese coolies. You know, in fact, my grandfather, my great grandfather came here as a coolie. You know, carrying the rice sack and many years ago. So the Chinese settled in what we call Chinatown, which is Kreta Ayer. So the west bank of the river are all the Chinese. And then the east bank of the river, which is where the Beach Road area and where the entire civic district is, was the house of the Tremengong, who is the ruler of, I think, Parameswara or something along this line. So the ruler of the Malay island, the Malay community, resided where the civic district lies, and the Malays settled behind him, and which is known today as Geylang Serai area. So all this didn't happen by accident. They happened by design. And of course, we also have another very successful group of immigrants who are from India, and they settled slightly further up the basin. So the basin is like the beginning of life of Singapore. Okay, so we go up the Singapore River, you get where the Chinese had this greater area, but the Indian merchants sailed up Rochor River and founded this place that was eventually going to be known as Kampong Kebau, which in Malay, it roughly translates into the meaning of Buffalo Village. And this is where KK is today. So KK, Kandang Kebau, actually means it's a cattle market. Yeah, so that's the beginning of Rochor. So this is where the three population base of Singapore work together in the core central area to develop the entire modern Singapore. Okay, so what is happening in this side of town? If we look at it from the angle of Little India and where KK Hospital is, so I view the city, I use Google Earth and I view it towards Marina Bay Sands. And this is the entire area here because I was responsible for Sim Lim Squares on block, So you realize that all these areas are redesignated as hotel zone. Even that corner area whereby we had a Old Chunky there, Rex Theatre, all these will be redesignated as historical, slightly conserved, that row of shop houses is conserved, and you'll become a hotel belt. This is where the central universe will shift towards this portion as well. Because the city is too old, the infrastructure here will be renewed, and you have Little India sitting on one side. The properties here are going to be worth a lot in the future because the government has a concerted plan of redeveloping it after the downtown line and the North-South Expressway are done. Even the colorful blocks of Rochor City is gone, and they are going to be replaced by a new Rochor Center that's going to be another crown jewel in this portion of the world, this portion of Singapore. So take some time to soak in this slide here, and this is what's going to happen to this side of the city. So we're going to take an area view. If you look at this orange area, this is where North-South Corridor is. North-South Corridor is an expressway that links the northern part of Singapore, and in future, maybe even JB, all the way to the city. Because currently, the only way to the city is through the CTE, through Havelock Road. But I think all this is going to change because the new expressway is going to unleash all the traffic onto this Ophir Rochor corridor and onto the East Coast and ECP and Marina Bay. And this is how it goes. It will split at the Rochor Center and you will go towards that Raffles Medical area. And then that will empty itself into the Marina Bay. And you enter the MCE through that highway, Benjamin Sheares Bridge. You will go up the very high highway, turn left towards Suntec City, and that's where you will join the MCE in future. And that will take you all the way up into Woodlands at the north part of the island. So because of this, I guess this entire area of Singapore is slightly neglected, but I think we can put some of our money here because anytime there's going to be massive tearing down of buildings, rebuilding of old buildings into brand new Class A assets, all the neighboring buildings will kind of have asset appreciation. Because if my neighboring building, brand new, is selling for 3,000 PSF, my building is only 10 years old, I think I can sell for 2,005 and people will buy it. I guess it's a shifting goalpost, as we say. So take note of this area, very interesting. I've also done some superimposition of this, the two expressway. CTE is red. That's the good old CTE, the super jam up CTE that we know. That is the red part that's going to wiggle itself from the north part of Singapore all the way down, and they will cross the future north-south corridor at where the KK Hospital is today. If you notice, the big car park beside KK is gone forever because it is going, that's the open cut area whereby they built the entire north-south expressway that goes through Newton, goes through Revenue House, all the way down, go under the Rochor Canal and empties itself into the Marina Bay area. Okay, so this is the future of the Rochor area, which is underpinned by the existence of the North-South Expressway, which is called the North-South Corridor. Why is it called corridor? Because cyclists cannot cycle on expressway, right? But this North-South Corridor, there are cycling tracks that are built and integrated into this entire tunnel. So we call it the North-South Corridor, so that the regulations are going to be very clear. Especially it's called NSC and not the NSE. Okay, so what's happening beyond the city? I want to talk a little bit about the Greater Southern Waterfront because we have a lot of container port sitting at mega prime land. It's a little bit like what happened in Philippines port by Bonifacio. It was a prime land next to Makati City that was just like a American base. So later, when they took it back from the Americans, the Port Bonifacio City authorities took it over and redeveloped it into the Bonifacio Global City, which is the equivalent of our Marina Bay. So what we are going to do is to take over Brani Island, and we're going to turn it into downtown south. NTUC is going to build an entire resort there. We are going to turn the entire PSA port container area into our straight settlement. And all the way to Pasir Panjang, this will become the Greater Southern Waterfront. And phase 0 has already taken place. Where is phase 0? Phase 0 is where Keppel is. In the 1980s, Keppel was just a shipyard before it was relocated all the way to Tuas. Okay, so when we relocated the Keppel shipyard to Tuas, Keppel, as the owner of the shipyard, inherited the land. And that's why they bought over this straight steamship company, and then they merged to become Keppel Land because the steamship company held a huge tract of the prime land as well. This is exactly what happened. So the transformation of Keppel Bay happened also more than 100 years ago. In 1848, Captain Henry Keppel, he founded a natural deep harbor near Tanjong Pagar. And then in 1968, Temasek Holdings took over the British port and named it Keppel Shipyard. So in 1983, Keppel as a group now, bought over the Strait Steamship Company that I showed you slightly earlier on in the very early Shenton Way slides. They bought it over and turned it into Keppel Land. And then from the beginning of 1999, when Keppel Shipyard shifted all the way to Tuas, this entire area is open for development. That's why you have your Keppel Reflection, you have your corals, at Keppel Bay, you have your Caribbean, and recently King's Dock, okay, at Keppel. So the entire Keppel Island and the Keppel Club there, beautiful. This is a real picture. This was taken in 2020. So I call this the phase 0 of the Greater Southern Waterfront. So I'm going to show you a video now of what the government has planned for the Greater Southern Waterfront. And this video are not created by us. They are real videos that are created by URA. And please spend a few minutes. We go through this. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed the video because this is really the shape of things to come in the southern city area of Singapore. All right, so we just have to look at this picture here that was published by China News Asia somewhere in 2013, January. They call this the population white paper because by 2030, we expect that we are going to grow our population between 6.5 million to 6.9 million. And the last I checked, by 2021, we have hit about 5.75 million people. Even suffering the setback of COVID, we are still on track on 5.8 million. So if you look at all the points, the bullet points that are on this slide, you realize that everything is true. All right, everything is true because all the points that are being illustrated here have already taken place and have happened. All right. Okay, so let me quickly wrap up. But before I do that, let me just point out two mega trends that all of us have to be very clear. One is they're all related to national security. So one is our coastline. We have to protect our coastline because Singapore, we are not exactly very far high up above the sea elevation. And over the next century, we're going to be underwater and inundated. That's why we built East Coast slightly at 1.5 meters above the sea level already in the 1970s. And this was how far that we have planned. Okay, and in concept plan 201, we realized that there is a small little Coney Dock island here that we have, a lot of us have not seen. This is exactly outside the entire East Coast lagoon area. So the entire waterfront, Marine Parade, Silver Sea, even to a certain extent, your Amber Road, Mayor Road, Marine Parade, this upper East Coast area, everything will not be seafront land in time to come. If you look at this small little island here, yeah, so it's really in the concept plan. So go to URA and watch out for this. The entire orange area are future reclamation that have been planned all the way to 2050. So a lot of the so-called seafront land will no longer be seafront land, all right? And what's to stop us from building something like that? I do not know. This is purely fictitious. Yeah, but I think that in future, this is going to be another zone of mega development. East Coast Amber Park has really hit prices that will do the core city to shame already, okay, above 2,000 PSF and closer to about 3,000 PSF. So if that is happening, I guess you know that there's still some worth in the property along this area. Yeah. So we have raised the entire Singapore. This is at this Tanah Merah Coast Road. You know that there's a small little old railings. That was where the sea level, where the facilities were. But we have quietly raised it by another 2 meters upwards. So the green railings are the new, I would say, Singapore coastline height. And we do this to protect ourselves all the way for the next century. Okay? So Singapore is not going to go underwater because of this reason. Yeah. Okay, so this entire video was taken on my way out of Singapore, and I looked at Tekong Island. This entire Tekong Island, if you notice, the land reclamation is underway. All right, maybe next time you'll be elder care facilities, etc. We do not know. Yeah. So the other second issue that we had to take note of is the issue of food, because Singapore came up with that 30 by 30 framework, producing 30% of our food by 2030, and we are going to strengthen our food security. We have done a research paper on this, and if you're interested, please request from Mr. Deepak. Okay, he will be, he can pass you this entire research paper that we found that if you want to invest today in some non-residential properties, you should look at food, because ghost kitchen, etc., are going to be the highest yielding commercial properties, unlikely going to be retail anymore. Okay, so if you invest into ghost kitchen and food, I think you're going to hit it pretty big, because as I study, a lot of the ghost kitchen, like I select, they are getting yields of upwards of 20%, 20% ROI. That is ridiculous. But then, of course, it will only happen if you're the early part of the wave, because at the later part, I think all the yield will be compressed. Yeah. So what the past taught us is this. I'm going to end this lecture with a video I watched many, many years ago, way before the Marina City was built. And I thought to myself, wow, these are very science fiction architecture. Will they ever happen? Let's enjoy. This video was shown way before all these buildings were built. But the amazing thing was, when it was finally built, I went back to my archives and I had goosebumps, because whatever that I saw in this video was true. Whatever that they draw about the couple, the entire southern waterfront, I can assure you they are all going to be true. Okay, so examine the details that this is the kind of detailed planning that our government has done way before the buildings were built. This bridge is there, the double helix bridge. The entire waterfront was there. One thing they didn't predict is that one of these buildings could become the LV and Apple flagship store. But those were afterthoughts.
There's no place I'd rather across the skies that sail the seas to be where I wanna be.
Yes, I'm going to end my slide here by illustrating that what we have imagined, Singapore has delivered so far, and it's really almost an exact 1:1 copy of the plan that we have planned. Okay, so I think it's a pretty amazing place to be in for the next 30 years, COVID or not. So my conclusion for today's sharing is real estate opportunities. We had to study the URA master plan. So just go to what we call URA space, copy this down, URA space. You enter it into your browser, it will bring you to URA's website. You will download this multimedia map and you go there and spend an afternoon exploring. It's going to be really interesting and rewarding. All right. The second is to look at the greater policy direction of Singapore. If Singapore is going to build dams and barrage and reclaim new pieces of land, you know that the property there are going to be more valuable in years to come, invest there. If the government is going big onto food, follow the government's direction. You know, I'm not being pro-government. I'm just saying that as an investment consultant, I mean, you should follow what the greater direction of the government has planned and then be slightly ahead of curve. Because once the news gets out into the mass media and into 80% of the population, I think it's no longer an investment tip already. Okay, so with that, I will end my lecture today. Thank you for being wonderful audience. I will pass the time back to Ms. Pooja. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. That was quite informative and insightful, and I'm sure that our audience would have gained and they would have learned about the landscape of Singapore in very extensive manner. We shall now open the floor to question answers from the audience. So I have received a lot of questions on the chat box, so maybe I just can read them out and maybe we can just take it up. Somebody has asked in the chat box that when are the property cooling measures, ABSD, TDSR going to be increased in the future?
Okay, so again, I say this without any knowledge as to I do not have any hidden connection that tells me when the cooling measures will be, but I'm a scholastic person. So I look at facts and figures and I always go back in history to teach me about the future. So if we notice in the last cycle at about 2016, we were all thinking that, well, the en bloc boom is coming. And then there was a massive frenzy by developer to snap out en bloc land. And we were like, oh, when is the cooling measure going to be? I've compared a few cycles. I can tell you that you just watch out for a mega release of government land sale. Watch out for that. The moment the en bloc wave takes on a certain momentum, and when the government release a bumper crop of URA government land sale program, okay, I think once the land has been sold and they cap it at the entry price, the cooling measure will come to freeze that point in the market as one chapter for all the stocks to be cleared. Because I think what the government has to do is to ensure that they cannot sabo the developer, right? If you have sold this GLS land to the developer, you cannot keep on selling and selling and selling and selling until you cause all the developer to go under because they bought your land and then you still release a lot more land. So usually after this, they will stop a lot of buying frenzy by implementing a cooling measure. So in a very indirect way, because I do not wish to say that I'm an investment guru that I can gaze in a crystal ball and tell you when is it coming, but I will share empirical evidences in the past that suggest to me that they are kind of linked. And this is how I would approach investment, because they kind of correlate. After you have zoomed out and taken a view for 50 years, you see certain patterns. And this is the conclusion I came to. Watch out for the bumper release of GLS land, because before that, I don't think they're going to cool the market yet.
Thank you. Another one has asked, is it a good time to buy or invest in real estate?
Okay, so again, this is done with a clear historical backdrop, because I believe that none of us are geniuses. I'm not Lee Kuan Yew. I cannot see into the future like him, but I can look at the past and learn from the past, and gives me a very, very confident take on what's going to happen in the future. So if we just got to transport ourselves a little bit back to the Lehman crisis, because I was an economics student and I used to believe in Keynesian's theory that banks, if they are not healthy, they should be allowed to die. Alan Greenspan believed in that. Banks should be allowed to die. Look what happened when they allowed Lehman to die. The contagion was so bad that, it brought the world to its knees, called the global financial crisis. But what we had then was this miracle boy called Ben Bernanke. He implemented what we call the quantitative easing measures, the quantitative easing, which is money printing. And he copied from President Roosevelt in the 1930s, because he was the guy, he called the Roosevelt intervention. He was the one who unfroze the US economy in the Great Depression and brought it back into life. So Ben Bernanke is what we call the Depression scholar, and he was brought in specifically to cure the world of the problem. So we see QE as bad, we were printing money. But what happened in Singapore was this: when the world was printing money, something happened to us in the year 2009, you recall? Because in 2008, it was doom and gloom, we had jobs credit. But in 2019, the richest in the world are all snapping up bungalows on Sentosa Island, buying into Singapore real estate. I think we remember that phase. And 09, 10, 11 to 12 was a massive increase in property prices, 76% in all, okay, within that 3 years. And the moment it reached a peak and they find that, oh, that's enough, and they will step in the cooling measure. So I remember in January 2013, car COE was 98,000. And that is just like a few years after the global financial crisis. So somewhere along middle of 2020, I told some of my friends, I told them two things. If you have some money put into any blue chip stock, just go and throw in the Apple stock or Tesla, you will make loads. And Apple reached 2 trillion valuation after COVID. Why? It is because of the concept of quantitative easing. Because US pushed in quantitative easing for Janet Yellen is back as the secretary of the Treasury. So they push in $700 trillion. Okay, and that's the amount that is being dumped into the market. And this caused a global rising tide that caused Bitcoin to break record recently. It's not because there's anything that is driving anything economic in principle. Apple didn't reach 2 trillion valuation because it suddenly released a blockbuster product. It didn't. It was just the global rising tide that pushed everybody towards 2 trillion valuation. And all the companies that IPO last year, bravo, everybody got above average PEs and very, very good IPOs. That is the reason. And because of that, you notice that if you read the news, a lot of family offices and the world's richest are setting up family offices here. The Ofimo group of South Africa, they have just set up a family office here. The De Beers owner, the diamond owners, they have set up family offices here. And because of that, people like our staff like Deepak will be probably very busy cutting all these family offices. And then this money got to go somewhere. They got to go into luxury cars. And I already predicted to my friends that you want to change car, better change, because COE will hit about 60 to 70,000. I was wrong. It exceeded my prediction. It has hit $80,000 in the middle of COVID. So if we look at it, it is slightly similar to the years 2009, 2010, 2011. It is similar. And it's all because of the global rising tide, the we call asset inflation. And because of that, I think if you put in the money today, as in development, we launched a development called the Landmark about 1 year ago. Our first launch price was only like 1,009. Now Canning Hill is going to launch at 3,000. We are selling our units at like 2,003, 2,004, and people are buying. So this entire appreciation is happening in front of our eyes. Next time, Ang Mo Kio will be selling at 2,001 PSF. Pasir Ris has hit 2,000 PSF. 2,000 is going to be the average price of real estate in Singapore. So if we do have some money, well, you can put it in blue chip stocks. It will just go up according to the money that's being dumped into the market. I think about 70 billion each month by the US Treasury. They are buying up bonds and buying up all these assets to kind of push money into the system. And it will go on for a while until, of course, I always have one saying, as investor, we do not want to be too religious or too theoretical or philosophical about it. We make hay while the sun still shines. because there are always the ebb and flow investment. So long we time it, we make some money and we exit. We do not want to be very philosophical about the Gini coefficient, the rich poor divide, because that will happen. Look at USA, all the developed economies, that is happening. The same thing will happen for Singapore. So my short answer to the question is very likely the real estate prices, not because we are in the real estate world, but you look at the news today, all these are underpinned by hot money, and it is a historical reflection of 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. And COE accumulated at a peak of $98,000. And I think we are almost on our way there.
Thank you. There is another question. They say that why Great Southern waterfront is fully residential when the land is closer to CBD area?
Yeah, if you notice just now in one of my slides, there's something called the SDI. SDI is Strategic Development Initiative. It is a mixed use future, because the government realized that the CBD is an underutilized piece of Class A assets. Let me explain why. Because I do go around the city sometimes on weekends, and if I do have a meeting or somewhere at Marina Bay Financial Center, I see spanking new restaurants. That was pre-COVID, you know, they were totally empty. So why is it that such nice infrastructure are not being made use of in the weekend? It's because there are no people staying there. There's only 1 Shenton, number 5 on Shenton, E on Shenton, and Shenton 76. These are about the few residential properties that are there. So there is a concerted attempt to bring in residential people into the mix. Then in future, the line between work and home is going to be very blurred. If you have noticed over the last 1.5 years, the reason why we are here in Zoom, some of you are at home, I in my office, this happened because technology just shows us the way. In future, the difference, the line between workplace and home is going to be very blurred. And that's why the government is going towards a mixed use future. All the latest land that they sell next to MRT are all mixed use, meaning that you have an office, you likely have a hotel, you're going to have residential, you're going to make sure that the infrastructure are milked for all it's worth. Because currently the city is a little bit too empty on weekends and it is a waste of resources. Yeah, that's the reason. So the only way is to bring in the richest people to fringe the city, so that the city will continue to develop as the crown jewel while you have rich people staying around the city. But Singapore is also very, very careful, because residences and housing is used as a social engineering tool. And we cannot leave the middle class behind. And this is the reason why URA has promised that in the greater Marina Bay Southern Waterfront area, they're going to have HDB flats. The middle class are not going to be left behind. Okay, the flats are not going to be cheap, but at least it is affordable enough. So they are going to be mixed residential, low, mid-end, low-end, high-end, office, commercial, hotels, recreation. They're going to place downtown south there. It's going to be like downtown east, but set in the sea, sunny island set in the sea. Beautiful place that we are witnessing. That is the reason. Because with residential crowd, the entire place just comes to life even past 10 midnight. I mean, sorry, past 10 p.m. and sometimes past midnight.
Okay, thank you. The next question is how you look at China's Evergrande effect.
Okay, our staff, we did discuss this some time ago. We found that actually Evergrande is, they actually got government's sponsorship, low interest loan, prime loans to expand for social good. But of course, the recent political climate has changed. They have to curb the super mega corporation, and the credit kind of dries up. But the net asset that Evergrande has, if it is allowed to complete its projects, because a lot of the projects are like, the pens are worn halfway. Wait, I'm getting out of the house. Can you wait 5 minutes for me? I need to get out. Once I get out of the house, I'll be spiffy and nice, but you please wait 5 more minutes for me to get ready. So I think what Evergrande needs is a lifeline. And from the way I see about China's policy, they will not openly do this. I think we have discussed this, Deepak, Keith and us, we had a good session, right? We were talking about how the government is likely, China government is likely going to intervene very, very subtly, perhaps by giving a interest, allow this giant to at least finish up the projects while selling all some of the key assets to fund the interest payment. This is how I see it, because housing, like Singapore for China, is a social tool. And if you're going to have too much of people who are putting their life savings and who are not going to see a completed apartment or building, there's going to be social hardship. And I do not speak for the Communist Party, but I guess that's a lightning rod for them. Communal hardship is something they will try to avoid. And because of this, it is likely to say that Evergrande is slightly too big to fail, because it's a little bit intertwined with the social outcome of China. But of course, the Politburo's hands are a little bit tight, because they cannot show through too leniently as to like, oh, we're going to let this giant off, like, USA, Ben Bernanke, bail out everybody. They're not going to do that. But I think it's going to be achieved very, very subtly, which I think Deepak and Keith would have more entrenched knowledge than me, yeah, in this area. Yep. But this is in general our consensus going forward. Yeah.
Thank you. There is another question before we end this session. They say that, what are your views on future prices at Sentosa Cove?
Okay, so Sentosa Cove was the days of easy money. So it was the days whereby they marketed it as the future, the world's most prestigious address. And it was true for a couple of years until the cooling measures started biting in because of the 20% ABSD. Although you can buy a bungalow, a lot of people say that no, they are more high yielding asset unless they buy as a trophy project to show off. But no, I think that kind of mindset changed. That's why Sentosa Cove went down to below Bishan price. If you notice, Sentosa Cove today is cheaper than Bishan. And even I myself, I've spoken to Keith before, I'm tempted to go and buy one, 4-bedder facing by the sea. I'm going to sell my landed house and go and buy a 4-bedder facing by the sea at 1,300 PSM. I'm very tempted to do that. So I guess the future of Sentosa, it will recover to the peak of 2010, but it may not exceed that point, at least for the next 10 years, until the entire ecosystem of the Greater Southern Waterfront is completed. Okay, but at the same time, Sentosa Cove will suffer from what we call lease decay, because all the properties there are 99 years leasehold, and by the time the Greater Southern Waterfront is in full swing, a lot of our Sentosa bungalow, Sentosa condos, including Cape Royal, Turquoise, and Oceanfront, are going to be right old age of 30 years old. So because of that, the lease decay makes them prime candidate for en bloc. Because in Singapore, a lot of us forgot that our government development authority is called URA. Why is it R? R stands for redevelopment. If you notice, it's not called the Urban Development Authority. It's called the Urban Redevelopment Authority. This simply means that every old building, whether leasehold or freehold, will have to go. They have to be redeveloped because we don't make new land anymore. So which means that I predict that if you are able to hold, Sentosa Cove is a very prime candidate for the en bloc wave of 2030. That's where they'll tear down all the old Oceanfront, old Cape Royal to rebuild something to rival the new Repulse Bay that I told you about, the Straits View settlement that's going to rise from the container area, and they will have compelling, comparable properties there. So if you want to buy now, you have to buy it for two intentions. Number one is to stay there, bring out your children, or to retire. And you go in with open eyes. I'm going to enjoy the seafront, I'm just going to enjoy for the next 10 years. Then by the time the value should go up only during en bloc. Yeah, and the en bloc wave will come because developers, like we just bought a piece of land in Chin Swee Road. The land was left 60 years, but after we bought the land, we went to URA and we top up the lease back to 99 years, and we relaunched it as a brand new landmark with a full 99 years on the lease. Okay, so this will happen to Sentosa Cove. It is not true that in Singapore, after 99 years, then if the land is only 60 years, the developer will buy over and then only sell the land as a brand new 60-year leasehold condo. No, not true. We just need to pay the differential premium and the lease top up, and we can top up the lease back to 99 years. So whether 99 years or not freehold, it really doesn't matter coming from me. Well, I mean, you can disagree because my dad still disagrees with me up to today, and out of respect, I don't argue that much. But I really feel all 99 years. I believe in that because your building will get old. Your land is freehold, yes, but you look at Pacific Mansion at River Valley, the sewage get clogged on weekends when everybody go there and play mahjong. The second floor, third floor got junk coming up from the sewage, you know, the piping, you know, it is true story. I didn't cook this up. So you can have a freehold land, but your building is 50 years old. Who cares about freehold condo? So I rather buy 99 years, I buy bigger. I buy a big penthouse, 2,500 square feet instead of buying 1,400 square feet freehold. This is my sense here. And during en bloc, developers, to us, I'm speaking now like a partner, a sister company of ZACD, we don't really care, you know, whether 99 years land or freehold land. We calculate the capital gains and, you know, the return on our equity, and it's kind of the same. I think Deepak can share more because he knows the figures better. So, I mean, he is in charge of that, so he has all the details. Leasehold or freehold development, about the same gain for the developer. So that's why if you look at Sentosa Cove, I think if you have a longer time horizon, go for it, because I think the property value is underpriced because nobody believes in the Greater Southern Waterfront yet. Just like if I showed my father the video of Marina Bay, he wouldn't have believed me in the year 2008. He wouldn't have believed me, all right? Because, well, not that he doesn't trust me, but, you know, it's hard to believe. But if we look at the Greater Southern Waterfront story today, and then all of us start to look into that, you don't need to buy tomorrow. Talk to Deepak, maybe talk to myself, talk to us. We will guide you along the way. If you have a longer term horizon, this is the area to enter. Yeah. Although it doesn't sound like it because of the news. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. May I request Mr. Kishore to just give a vote of thanks and then we end this session. Mr. Kishore, you are on mute.
Right. Sorry. Thank you, Pooja.
No problem, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this very fruitful session. Mr. Francis, you gave such an informative session that about the land developments in Singapore. So someone doesn't have to go to URA, just come to you and get the questions right from you. And Mr. Deepak, for all your knowledge on the investments and the rate of returns, I hope that everybody had an inspiring session with you. Your feedback is really highly regarded at SICCI, and we request you to fill in the feedback and form at the end of this session. Any questions related to this session are welcome and sent to puja@sicci.com. Corporates and individuals are warmly welcome to join our membership. For more information, please write to us at Gowri, GOWRI.Pillai, PILLAI @sicci.com. I think all the new members will find that it's very lucrative to join our membership. Thank you once again to everybody, and we may close this session now. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.